Good afternoon, everybody. This is Ayla from the new federal state of China. Welcome to our special program, Miles Trial. We will be live broadcasting on Getter, Rumble, and everywhere else from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. weekdays to bring you live updates about Mr. Miles Guo, the founder of the new federal state of China's criminal case in Southern District of New York. And so, up till last week, the government has called upon 11 witnesses already. And today, for Monday, June the 10th, the government actually had brought 3 witnesses to the court. So let's welcome Max, who actually attend and listen to the trial today. He will bring us a more detailed live update from SDNY.
Hi there, Isla. It's my pleasure to be here live from the Southern District of New York, where Miles is currently undergoing trial, and it's my absolute honor to bring you live updates. I just wanted to give everyone a quick update on Mr. Guo. He's looking great on a new week today. He was wearing a gray suit with a black tie and a white dress shirt. He looks lively as always. Like you said, it is a new week. I believe this is the 4th week since the trial officially had begun. So it's been a long time so far, and lots of things have been brought up. And but Mr. Guo is still smiling and welcoming everyone as we come into the courthouse. The courthouse absolutely packed yet again. Lots of support from our fellow fighters and people who are intrigued in the trial as well.
Thanks, Max. Thank you for bringing us, how Mr. Guo was today. It is very important and very glad to hear from you. So Max, tell us a little bit about, what was happening in the court today. Obviously, it seems to me that the government had speeded up in calling on new witnesses today. I've noticed that 3 more witnesses actually appeared in the court. So tell us a little bit of each of the witnesses. And apparently, some witnesses, it's direct, and cross-examination seems to be very short today.
Absolutely. So as many people recall from last week, I think one of the biggest names was Mulan. But after Mulan, things started speeding up. Right after she was brought on as the, I believe, the 10th witness, there was one Bugatti dealership owner that was brought on. And then afterwards, we ended Friday on the government's 12th witness, who was an FBI agent who was responsible for taking photographs of the Sherry apartment arrest and search warrant conducted by the FBI. So today, when we started off, we did finish off with the cross-examination of the FBI agent, the photographer, and then we moved on to the 13th the 13th witness, who was actually the head of a Ferrari dealership, and that was very swift as well. I'll get into that later. But the main focus of today was definitely the 4th witness that the government called upon. His name was Haithan Khalid, and he was in charge of a lot of finances, especially the head entity of the crane operations group. So he was the main focus for today, and today we started in the morning with his direct, and we still haven't yet gotten to the cross-examination yet.
Thanks, Max. Let's dive into, the witnesses who appeared in the morning first, right? You obviously mentioned about the FBI agent, whom I believe most of the evidences were photo-related, about, the photos that the agent took when they issued arrest warrant and search warrant to the Sherry Netherland Hotel where Mr. Guo lived. Brief us a little bit of, the witness who actually came with the Ferrari dealership background. How was that introduced into the court, and what evidences were presented to the jurors today?
Absolutely. So the main leading argument for the government for their 12th witness, the FBI agent, was the hidden phone under the bed, which the cross-examination determined that she wasn't actually in the presence when they announced the search and the knock and enter warrant. So she wouldn't have been able to confirm specific details that will be related to their argument. And when they introduced the 13th witness, their main objective was to paint that it was very, very similar to the witness who was in charge of selling the Bugatti. It was mainly to paint a sense of expense and exclusivity regarding purchases such as the Ferrari specifically for the Ferrari FXX K Evo, which is a very, very exclusive car. But with that being said, Ferrari's factory also delves into a very, very thorough deep dive into like the vetting process of knowing their customers. As people may know, these luxury brands, they go very, very deep into the background of those who their prospective buyers, and they make sure that all their dealings are people that they wish to conduct business with. So it was revealed that it was implied that Miles had been a customer since 2011 with the Ferrari factory. So the majority of the testimony with the Ferrari witness was essentially just to get down to the numbers regarding the purchase and the maintenance costs of the Ferraris.
Gotcha. So, it sounds to me the government has been into, witnesses who are related to car purchases. In the very first week, the government called on, a witness who was handling a Lamborghini sale. And later on, as you said, Ray, earlier last week, the government also called on people who, who was responsible for the Bugatti sale as well. And this week we've seen, a witness who came from a Ferrari dealership. So, tell us, a little bit, how that was rounded up, very quickly, obviously with the specific, 13th witness, it seemed to me, less than half a day, a direct and a cross-examination, was being able to get completed.
That's correct. Yeah, it was very, very swift. The whole thing lasted maybe 40, 50 minutes with one direct and one cross, no redirect. And to be honest, like it was my observation that even throughout the cross-examination, it was pretty lighthearted, and there were a lot of lighthearted, good faith jokes being thrown around the court, just regarding the nature of the Mr. The Ferrari salesman whose name was Mr. Mattioli. He was a very kind, spirited guy, and reflected by the defense's questioning, there wasn't much to dive into, in my opinion. But once we started the 14th witness, I believe the vibe had changed in the courthouse as it got very technical, very financial. And I want to give you a brief rundown of the 14th witness, because he had been a mortgage banker along with other financial backgrounds. He came from other financial backgrounds. He ended up working for a lot of banks, most notably Capital Bank and later on Citibank. And it was very interesting because he also signed a non-prosecution agreement. As you know, Mulan had signed one as well, that he wouldn't be prosecuted for the crimes he committed involving this case, as well as the crimes that the FBI or the government had on him from previous time periods. So it was very interesting because during the direct, as you know, we only went through the direct from before lunchtime, before the lunch break, up to now. It was only the direct, and it was revealed that he had actually committed a series of white-collar crimes dating from 2009 all the way to 2016, and he admits to committing crimes even during the his employment at GTV and Soraka. And he also admitted to violating his employment contract, violating a breach of contract by working for two companies at the same time. And it was all revealed during the direct today. So it was very interesting to see him as a witness.
Wow. So Max, it sounds to me, well, so far we've only had two witnesses who entered a non-prosecution agreement with the government, and the first one is Mulan, right? But with with the 14th witness, who worked for Crane and who held a previous position at GTV, it sounds to me is a little bit different because the 14th witness actually had committed other crimes prior to Mr. Guo's cases, and the non-prosecution agreement that he entered at this time actually provided him much more benefits in clearing all of the records and clearing the path of the burdens that he carried with all of the cases he had, and so I was surprised to see that the government had offered him such a huge agreement just to have him testify against Miles in this case. So what are the arguments or the evidences that this specific witness had brought into the court today? I'm pretty sure, this person would be more finance related, or there are many bank records or, testimonies from previous time. What were the main objectives or arguments that the witness was trying to make today?
Absolutely. And before I dive into that, I just want to reiterate that point that you said. He was provided a lot of coverage for things that he did as an individual, crimes that he committed as an individual that possibly was was investigated as his employment in, for example, Citibank. And he was provided coverage by testifying in Miles's case. So that is something very interesting to note. In terms of evidence, like you said, there was a lot of technical, just essentially there were a lot of emails regarding the entities involved. A lot of names came up. People like Alex, people like Aaron Mitchell, people like Yvette Wong, and a lot of these emails came up as a way for their argument to link all the entities together to basically put a name to the people responsible for pulling the strings. However, there was a piece of evidence that I believe that is more crucial to dive into, and that's his recorded conversations from the phone calls. And I'm sure the panel will dive into it, but it was essentially a hard drive of phone calls that he had recorded at random to his testimony of phone calls between him and Mr. Guo and other related entities as a way for him to, in his words, be responsible or accountable for the money that was being moved around. And it's very interesting because during direct, he was also admitting to the fact that when money was transferred through his Crane company, Crane had actually used that money to pay off expenses. So I'm sure this will be all dived into and more fleshed out during the panel, but that is where we ended off today with a examination of the first phone recording from his hard drive.
Right. So it sounds to me, obviously when Mulan came up as, a witness who entered a non-prosecution agreement with the government, much of her testimony and her evidences were not actually communication based, right? A lot of the communication history that when Mulan brought to the court was based on her recollection of memories, based on her testimony, rather than the actual recording or actual message records. But, when you mentioned that the 14th witness actually brought into a phone recording, that was the first time, from the day one in the trial for us to actually see communication records coming up in the trial as evidence. And so, how was Mr. Guo's reaction when the 14th witness appeared? Obviously, there was evidence that included his voices into it, and did that change a little bit of how they react with the witness?
I'm not 100% certain. All I know for a fact is that Mr. Guo had taken off his headphones and he was listening to the recordings himself that was playing in English. So that's very impressive. And he was also caught talking to his lawyers in pure English today. So I don't know if that has any relevance to the witness himself. I do believe that he is a serious witness to consider in terms of this case. However, Mr. Guo has been very impressive in his ability to communicate through English, and as proven by the voice recordings, he's able to communicate well with the witness from before, at least in English as well. And I just wanted to point out one thing when you mentioned Mulan's testimony was purely based on her recollection of events happening. I just find it very funny because from the transcript of one day, she had repeated "I don't remember" or "I don't know" over 130 times during the cross-examination. So it is a testimony to behold, and I look forward to the panel today.
Max, thank you so much for the math about Mulan's "I don't remember." It's definitely impressive to see, how a witness react in the court when she entered an agreement with the government and tried her best to testify in the court. The fact that, one of the interesting parts for our audience to read through the transcript is at the very end of Mulan's testimony, our defense attorney, Sabrina, asked her, if she came to the court to testify against Miles. And her answer was no. She was there to tell the truth, and everybody laughed for several seconds, and everybody gets quiet afterwards, right? And it was definitely one of the funniest moments that we observed, last week. So thank you so much, Max, for bringing us live updates. We're hoping to see you next time, and please take care. We thank you so much for your effort and time today.
Thank you again. Thank you, Isla.
All right, folks, please follow us on NFSC Speaks on X. For every day, for weekdays from Monday to Friday, we will bring you live and timely updates about Mr. Guo's trial. And so follow us on NFSC Speaks. It's on X, it's on Getter, it's on Instagram, and everywhere else you will find our program, find live updates about Mr. Guo's case. And with every other court document or transcript of Mr. Guo's criminal trial and cases, you can find these documents on nfscofficial.com. And so let's welcome our beautiful Lady Feder and a long time no see face, Kevin, back to our studio in Manhattan. Thank you so much, Feder and Kevin, for coming today.
Hi, Ella. Thank you so much. Yes, I'm Feder. I'm back. A new week.
And Kevin?
Hi, Ella. Glad to be back.
Nice haircut.
Thank you.
So, we've actually just spoken to Max about how the government speeded up a little bit after Mulan's testimony, and so. Still, let's go back to morning a little bit and tell us, how the 12th witness ended up with all of the photos in the cross, and then why was, the 13th witness were related to Ferrari, ended up very fast. So brief us in details a little bit of everything that happened in the morning.
Right, there is definitely a connection between the testimony of the witness number 12 and witness number 13, which brought up after witness 12, and also it's also could be related to the dealership man about Bugatti and also on Lamborghini. So basically, the cross-examination for witness 12 resumed after last Friday. Because I missed a couple the last part of the cross-examination of last Friday, but we continued. Let me just see here. The question was asked, with the mattress and the phone in between the mattress and the bed. The question was asked, you don't have any idea when the phone is placed, the phone is placed there. That was also one of my questions was asked, because that's just so just to refresh the audience recollection, there's a phone that's found between the master bedroom's mattress and the bed. So the mattress was removed, and the picture has this phone right there. And the officer does not know when the phone is placed there, and she has no idea how it got there under the mattress. And according to other stipulation, there are also other 15 to 20. There are also multiple phones found under the bed. So that's not the only phone that's found under the bed. Okay, and then also they have this the FBI agents before they come into the door to do this research. There's the knock and announce like a prep, the knock and announce thing for the FBI. So they knock and announce FBI agent, research warrant coming in. And then they open the door, and then right away they spread out and go through the room. So that lasts 15 to 20 seconds. So we don't know where Miles was at she doesn't know where Miles was at in the house. So so no idea. No one knows when the phone is placed, and doesn't say anything about anything when the phone is placed in between the mattress and the bed, right? And also. A very important thing why I said this witness testimony is related to the cars witnesses, the dealership, because it was found Mr. Miles Guo's Hong Kong international driver permit is found in the house, and also Hong Kong's passport was found in the house. And according to the document we see in the picture evidence, the expiry date. It's in 2010. I don't know if in 2010. So it was long time expired. And according to this FBI agent, there was no American driver's license be found in the house.
The apartment.
Yes, no was found in the yes.
Great. So, Kevin, tell us a little bit of what were your observations when government do the direct examination with the 12th witness and the 13th witness. Were there specific arguments that you think that the government was trying to build, especially with the car, with the car purchase, with the Ferrari purchase?
Yeah, I mean, for the Ferrari purchase, I think it really links back to, I guess, about maybe 2 weeks ago where there was the Lamborghini where the prosecution tried to market it as how Miles bought the Lamborghini for himself. And it's just, the same thing here, but the defense was trying to basically say that, this is an investment, right? Sabrina asked questions such as, usually does the value increase or decrease? And the answer to that was increase. And then the prosecution was also trying to, see if the car was transferred to Switzerland, I guess for personal use. And so Sabrina tried to show to the jury that, the Ferrari dealership person, the witness, he didn't have any actual, information or knowledge of whether the car was actually transferred. And so, that's outside of his knowledge, right? And so just trying to show the jury that, there's a bit of disconnect there, and that, it's probably for investment and not for personal use.
Right, and same thing with the Bugatti, because Kevin wasn't there when the Bugatti, the president and the president of the Post Oak Bugatti in Los Angeles came on court. The argument of the government was that they're trying to show this contract, basically this purchase contract with the customer, that it's Miles' son bought this car on behalf of G Club, but it turns out the signed contract it's Lynn Marie from the CEO of G Club purchased with the wire transfer from G Club, and we show the first and second payments and the other payments are the logistics are very straightforward, and this is what's proven in the cross-examination that the clear transaction between G Club to the Bugatti dealers. Right. Yes, and the Ferrari, same thing. Franchise dealer. His information is very limited because he's personally not involved. He doesn't even know who Miles' son is. Never spoke to him. Never know who Miles' is, He gave a lot of insight about this specific car. This is a special car, and it's called FXXK. Very fancy. It's just the model, very, very fancy. The cost is around 6 million to 6.5 each. It depends. And also, interesting thing is that it's not, it's not a street legal. That means this car is not permitted to drive in the street, right? So it's specifically for racetrack. So for racetrack, and they also mentioned that it depends on the performance. If you want a high performance, you go on a track for a day. Usually, you gotta change tire at the end of the day. Right. So it's because it's for race, right? It burns a lot of tire and money. And then it was showing us purchase agreement. Let me just see here. With the VIN number, just proves that there's a successful transaction between the purchaser and the Ferrari Los Angeles. And this statement, let's see, it was signed by Miles' son, right? Yeah, Miles' son. Okay.
Yeah, for everybody who don't know, Miles' is, and he is, the son, the child, one of the two children that Miles had. He's the elder brother. Yes. Yeah. And a fun fact, I think probably February and Kevin doesn't know before you hop on the show is Miles' was the one who introduced Bugatti into China market in the past. So that's probably why that you saw Miles' presence in some of the Bugatti agreements. That was because Miles and his family had very deep connection even before he initiated the whistleblowers movement. And so with all of the Bugatti cars, when they first entered the China market, it was actually by the help of Mr. Guo's family, and Miles was one of the leading role in that. Yeah.
Right, and we're doing the direct examination, and there was an email change. Email chain. You want to explain a little bit about the email chain that they had? And there's an email sent by Miles specifically talking about the delay of the payment because of the factory inspection issue.
Yeah, so there was a factory inspection issue that delayed the delivery of the Ferrari, and so they were showing this in evidence this email chain, and basically Sabrina, the defense counsel for Miles, she was trying to show to the jury how the delay was due to basically the factory inspection, not a combination of other factors, because earlier I believe the prosecution was trying to portray it as how it was a combination of factors that delayed the shipment.
Right, and because also the delayed in shipment also delayed in the payment too. So Miles' son sent an email saying, "Oh, we're trying our best to forward this purchase, but we're waiting to pay the rest of the." Pay the rest of the payments, and there's no one is trying to default anything, right? And then there's nothing usual according to both government and defense team. Nothing is unusual about this transaction. There's nothing special about it, one of the first questions being asked by Sabrina when during the cross-examination is that, oh, this is a very exclusive car, we know, and then not anyone has money can purchase a car from Ferrari, and the value increases. So this is a pattern. Every car they bought, the value increases.
Because it was one of the exclusive models that they picked from these dealerships.
Yes, and there's a specific Corso Cliente. It's Italian. It's a program that allows the client to experience racetrack activities. So for the people who purchase this car, they can have a lesson on how to. There's an event that you can participate on to how to drive this car on a racetrack, and there's lessons. There's courses you can take. On how to use this car, and then apparently the dealer does not know if Miles' son was a regular client and how far back Miles' son Guo is a Ferrari client. So this is something I really want to mention, that according to him, he just knows that this specific witness just knows that he purchased this car on this day. And this
with
happened.
a very specific event and a very specific car.
Very specific. He doesn't know the rest of history of Miles' son with Ferrari.
And I believe Sabrina brought up the fact that Miles' son has been a customer of Ferrari since 2011.
Yes.
I believe.
Yes.
2011. So there's this long cut relationship between Miles' son and Ferrari, right? So this is not just a one-off event. And so that's basically what the Sabrina, the defense counsel, was trying to show to the jurors.
Right.
And also, according to the factory, the factory would ask the dealer if they have a specific model, and then there's this whole thing about parking the car in the storage all the time because of the maintenance, and then they can take care of the car and all that. And also, there's one thing, just last highlight, I think. Yes, this is one of the last highlights I want to say is that there's emails asking about shipping this to Switzerland from I think US, right?
US,
from
yeah.
US. So, but the witness doesn't know where the car is right now. And he doesn't even know if the car even left from US to Switzerland. So that's something that's painted the complete picture for the jurors and for us about the whole shipment thing, because
Yeah, and I mean, I think just like Feather said earlier, the two witnesses also connected back to this, right? Because this Ferrari is an investment, right? And as we can see from the 12th witness, he doesn't even have a driver's license, right? And this Ferrari is also not street legal, right? And so I mean, obviously we know Miles doesn't drive, right? From even like the first few witnesses, I think I remember he's only been drove once in the U.S. I guess this makes a stronger case to the jurors, and look, this is an investment, right? The value increased, right? Miles obviously can't drive it either, right? It's for race tracks only, and so also the end about where this car has been maintained very well in the Ferrari factory, being stored there, maintenance, right? So it just drives a stronger point to the defense counsel's argument.
Right, and also one thing I want to mention, last thing, I promise, it's that this Miles' is purchased this car in behalf of a company called Fiesta Development, Property Development Limited. that has nothing to do with G clubs, and it's completely separate entity. From what I know, it's from in UK. Yeah, and that's all I want to mention.
Right. For people who actually wondered why, witnesses from car dealerships actually appeared in a court was the government was trying to lay foundation on the arguments that, there was misuse of funds in the entities that were mentioned in the indictment, saying that, all these entities' funds used to purchase luxurious vehicles and for Miles' personal use. But like Kevin just said, right, first of all, Miles doesn't have a valid driver's license here in New York, and many of these cars are for racetracks, not for street use. And so I think, in terms of the two witnesses who actually came with a car dealership background, our defense attorney Sabrina actually, laid out that question, do you know that Miles actually doesn't drive? I think it was in Karen's, cross testimony that, do you know have you ever seen, Miles, driving in New York City? And what the witness said was no. And, Miles it was always the security team who drove the car for Miles, not only for security purposes, but also, driver's license and everything. And so here, we can see a clear pattern that, into those witnesses, the main point was one, if Miles was actually able to drive here in the United States, and second was where those vehicles are and who actually used these vehicles, right? And these will be the main questions to be answered in the court. And so let's move on a little bit to the 14th witness, because it seemed to me that the government had used much more time today to direct questioning the 14th witness. Yes. So Max told us it was related to, the 14th witness is the second witness who entered the non-prosecution agreement with the government.
Yes.
And this gentleman, seems to have more stories, of why he actually wished to sign that agreement with the government. So tell us a little bit further.
Yeah, first of all, I want to say 10:45 a.m. we already have our government's witness number 14 brought into the court. I think I want to just comment on the efficiency. The efficiency has to do with the witness's testimony as well. And it's very clear and non-biased, and I believe it's non-biased, and because the limited information they know and the little involvement they have in this movement too, and then leads to the efficiency that we have today. So in the morning we started questioning the witness 14 because of the number of stipulations that's going to be shown in the court. So we haven't started the cross-examination yet. So very interesting. He worked for GTV and Soraka. Basically, I think from the window from 2020 to 2021, he opened bank accounts for entities for GTV and Soraka, under GTV and Soraka's. And early on in his testimony, he mentioned how he felt not always truthful with banks that he deal with, and especially to open the accounts, bank accounts, that he doesn't feel truthful with it. But we're gonna explain it. We're gonna get into why he felt that way. Okay. Very interesting non-prosecution agreements. It's second witness that has non-prosecution agreement, but it's also very different from Yali, the witness number 10. Yeah, witness number 10. So basically, he had a criminal record before joining the Citibank and before he met Yvette Wang in the movement. So from 2008, 2010, 2016, he committed crimes related to bank account opening, home loan, and stuff like that. So basically like a monopoly, right? So the monopoly is, in this case, is that he, no matter if Miles Guo is convicted or not,
he has other cases needs to be solved,
yes,
right?
And he can get out of jail. He can 100% get out of jail if he tells the truth. And this is his get out of the jail free card for his past crimes too, so as long as he tells the truth. So this is what I found very interesting because he had the criminal records.
Did the government mention if he was detained while the government approached him for the non-prosecution?
I don't believe so.
I don't believe
no.
so. He contacted. He was reached by FBI twice,
Yeah.
and the second time he agreed to meet the government for 18 times until today.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. So in
Yeah.
total, up to 20 times that he met with, Justice Departments or U.S. Attorney's Office.
Right. Do you
And-
want to give further information?
Yeah, and I mean the prosecution was very thorough in I guess explaining the non-prosecution agreement. So, like they literally went through all like the past committed crimes, and also he even mentioned that he filed for bankruptcy back in 2018. So basically, just laid it all out for the jurors to see his background, and then after that they basically just went on in their questioning, and so I guess just a brief overview is that Feather mentioned as well, but he was a banking relationship manager, worked at Citi before, and then started working Soraka. And the interesting thing here is that
There's
he
an
was
overlap.
yeah. So there was an overlap between working in Soraka and working in Citi.
Wow.
So he was actually working at Citi.
as full
He
time.
offered.
well,
he
yeah.
accepted the offer
Yeah.
of Yvette Wang
Yeah.
while he still maintained the job at Citibank
Wow.
because it was.
His exact words were, because this was during COVID, and I wasn't sure if this was a real job, because it seemed too good to be true, I guess, from his viewpoint.
Yeah.
But
because
that was
there's
basically his explanation, and
Right.
I think he said this reason 2 or 3 times
Right.
just to make it clear,
Mhm.
and basically he talked about the interview, how it was in this townhouse of 5 floors. I forgot the actual address, but it was
16th Street in
Yeah.
Upper East.
Yes.
yeah. So the office was where a bunch of entities such as Soraka, I guess G Clubs, and all those organizations were run out of during the COVID pandemic. And so he was just basically speaking about his experiences interviewing and how he was recruited into Soraka. And then his main role there was basically just opening and maintaining bank accounts.
He's the banking relation
Yeah.
manager and the strategic manager.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the job that he accepted when offered him was more about managing banking relationships and opening bank accounts
Yeah.
for GTV,
Yes.
quote unquote, Soraka Media, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
also big projects such as he mentioned about opening up a bank as well, trying to maybe acquire a bank for Soraka as well. So
Okay.
yeah.
So at the time he joined, GTV, or at the time he accepted offer, was it in COVID pandemic? Was
Yes.
it in 2020?
It was in first day working is in August 1st of 2020. And he was asked to describe what was a typical day like in your work. It feels like a job interview. But what was a typical, was the first week like? He said, I felt weird. I felt like there's not a structure and something out of place. And it also is pandemic, so it's just weird in general for him. Also, it's a new work environment. He must feel overwhelmed as well. But when he was asked what's a typical day like work, he said the first couple weeks that they had a struggle to pay rent and salary, and there's a large need to open bank accounts for entities because to avoid the negative press on GTV's bank account back in I think it was believed in Citibank.
Yeah.
Yes, Citibank closed their accounts because of the. He didn't decide to close their accounts because he worked in Citibank and working with GTV with Yvette, managing their bank accounts. He was the manager, but then he I believe he left. Well, he left when he accepted his job. But then Citibank decided to close their bank account. But he changed the position at that point, so he has no really a say onto the closure of the bank account because at the time SEC was involved in the investigation of the bank accounts.
Right.
So to avoid the negative view on the press, reputation of the bank, and also the large media, the medias are like are spreading how this is related to CCP as well, and the largest media are deeply infiltrated with the CCP. So to avoid all those negative views, they closed their bank accounts. Therefore, they have to open more bank accounts in order to make this to forward the business, right? So he opened this company called Korean Entity. This is his company basically. He's created by him, Yvette Wang, and Victor. And the purpose is to apply for license for bank to set up a digital bank. So do you wanna give more info on the Crane entity?
Yeah, so he was the CEO of Crane and the entity because he set it up, and so he connected with a lot of the relationships that he opened up with banks. I believe was through this entity, Crane, and so a lot of the communication the prosecution was showing as well in the evidence. It was always through the Crane email domain, and so the prosecution also showed a bunch of emails where he liaison with people from GTV, Global Media, G Clubs, all those entities.
Yes, so as we can see, there's a lot of virtual offices that's been created. According to him, Lexington, G Club, G Music, G News, G Fashion, this is all the office that practice outside of that townhouse, which, where he works at. The reasons why is because they wanted to disassociate them with the movement, with GTV, with Saraka, because of the negative press that they're getting from the pressure from the SEC, from the CCP, everywhere. And at the point, they were opening 2 accounts for each entities at the time, because if one closes, you have the other one to use, right? That's basically, their names. There's different names that entity that came out from him.
So it sounded to me, he first started with having dual jobs in together. Basically, he hid the other identity that he had with the Citibank when he joined the office in Upper East with Evan Wan, right? Yeah. And then right after, he was terminated with Citibank, all of the bank accounts seemed to be shut off as well. So then it was the time that Crane was introduced to the group, where he was not the sole owner, but he was one of the 3 major roles into it. And then they started to move on with opening more bank accounts, for different business purposes, of course. And so, Feder, you mentioned about showing email exchanges, and Kevin, you say it was more of ended up in a domain named Crane. What are the other evidences that were shown in the court today? Were there any bank records, transaction wire? Because I'm pretty sure the government would want to lay foundation with finance, transactions, specifically.
There are emails that what he claims that he lied to the PR, the people who opened the banks, that to increase the chance to open a bank account at their specific bank. Let's say Mr. Miles School was operating day to day, and things like that he believed it was lying to the people at the banks, or
but he was the one who was actually connecting with the bank to provide the description.
Yes.
Right. So the description was not provided by anyone else to him. Rather, he think that what the description that he provided to the bank was false.
Yes. Let me see. The dishonesty, that he felt, saying that the things he had to do to maintain the account for G series, he doesn't feel like it's truthful. And what's the other evidence before the recording?
There was also, a bunch of pictures of wire transfers as well, and talking about, basically just showing the different wire transfers between entities and to the banks, right? There's many different banks they mentioned, like Medici.
Oh yes,
Citibank,
Medici, yes, Citibanks.
And
let me see here.
Were there specific purposes showing, what were those wire payments for?
Yes, and expenses for rent, for legal work, to open new entities. The remaining transfer goes to G Club. So this is what's at the Citibank. There was around 30 to 40 millions at that time. But then there's and then when we get to the biggest part, I would say the highlight of the day is the recordings that he recorded throughout the time where he felt like he has concerns. So he recorded. This is the reason that this witness gave to the court, that he has concerns because there's over $100 million in his own company bank account.
in the crane.
In crane entity. And he felt there's an inconsistency in people telling him what to do with the money. So he was feeling like, oh, you know, there are people telling me what to do with the money, but then I'm the owner of the company. Then I'm gonna be the one be responsible for all this money transactions, right? And you know, like you know, there's others telling him to transfer money to this and that, you know. And as he started recording, he's like, I think it's in March and April 2021, he started to record, and that's his main motivation.
Is to protect himself.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he said about accountability. You know, he has to, you know, just to have that. How do you say? That. You know, where
Have
money
that
is going,
protection.
protection. You know,
For
knowing
him.
where the money is going, and from that, you know, he can maybe be not a part of it eventually or something. And then he didn't select any specific phone calls. He just randomly record related to the transfer, and he did not tell anyone that, and the people on the phone that he was recording.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, for people, you know, who worked in criminal defense industry, right? Lots of the witnesses who actually were able to enter non-prosecution agreement was because, you know, they are having those recordings, and then these are the leverages, you know, when they present to the prosecution team, right? And so I think to our audience and you know, were there many recordings that he presented into the court today? You know, if so, I would assume all of these recordings were meetings, phone calls, communication related, right? And some of them might touch upon on where, you know, who gave you the wire instruction and where the money should go.
Right.
And so, you know, how many recordings that were shown today in the court, and you know, with those, you know, presented recordings, who were in those conversations?
There's a list.
There's like a laundry list of items.
A laundry list?
Basically, there's,
wow.
Like
there's
2 pages, yeah.
Yeah, 2 pages.
A 2-page list of recordings that he gave to the prosecution team. Wow.
Yeah, so every time there's you know, the evidence to be published or submitted, you know, the prosecution lists out each of the exhibits' names, and it was just like, it went on and on. It was like, I don't say 20 or more names.
Wow.
The prosecution, the lawyer was mentioning like at least for a minute or more, just the names. And I mean, we got the chance to listen to one of them at the end.
Yes.
And I guess the background of that audio was basically, they were trying to reconcile incoming funds from the bank accounts. And you know, Miles was on that call, Yvette Wang was on that call, along with
William G, Alex and himself.
And the witness himself. And you know, they were just the witness was discussing with Miles and Yvette, you know, what's happening with, you know, Medici, one of their bank accounts, as well as, you know, reconciling the funds and trying to figure out, you know, what's missing, what's not, and, you know, if it balances.
Right, and then they were talking about, like, you know, there's Miles was speaking some English in the meeting. Well, it's very easy to understand, and he's speaking very fluently, I'd say. And there's Yvette was trying to translate explain him some of the parts. You know, talking about 3 middle banks, and there's the total fund of $32 million that goes into G Club, and also the witness was saying there's 919 payments. That's like orphan wires.
Yeah.
That's like orphan wires. That means there's no reference. So usually if people transfer money, they would write down this payment is to G Club. So that's the reference you have to write. But there's orphans, and also some of the wires are blocked. And do you know what the reason was blocked? Was it because of the Medici told them to stop receiving?
So Medici, there was 3 intermediary banks as well. Those 3 banks want to discontinue the relationship with Medici. So the payments that went through them, I believe, were just in limbo. So they were just, you know, sort of blocked and just waiting there. And so I believe in the call they said that, you know, Medici is trying to figure it out, and they'll have it done, you know, by the week. They'll try to find a new intermediary bank.
Yes, there's 18.2 million.
So that was the 18.254 million that they were talking about in the call. And then Yvette also mentioned that there was, you know, $14 million that actually went through and came into the Medici bank accounts over 2 accounts.
Right. So they're trying to open a new middle account, and that's the meeting. It's about trying to open a new middle account. Then so the 18.2, that's the orphan wires can come into the G Club. And I wanted to mention something very important. What I heard in the recording. Kevin left a bit earlier, so. And then Miles heard everything, all the explanations and what's happening with the money and what the thing they need to do. Because of the 18.2 orphan wires, Miles said, he was saying in the recording that this is a big responsibility. We can't lose a single penny. And they're gonna sue us. It is very important. They have to get every single penny back because this is a big money, it's a big responsibility. They're gonna sue them. So it's very important for them to they cannot lose any penny. So this is, he values the investors' money. And this is why he's saying that at the end, the recording, what I heard, to make sure that they trace all the money back into the account, the Medici big account, and to unite with the other part of the funds. And
so for some, just to briefly summarize everything, right? They list out about 2 pages of the recordings that they have and the witness presented to the prosecution team. Only one of the recordings were presented today in the court, and in that specific recording, obviously 3 defendants in this case, right? Miles, Yvette, William, 3 of them were in the recording, including Alex, and including the 14th witness himself. So it was a 5-people group call. But in that specific call, Miles did not give any wire instructions to the witness.
No.
Miles did not say that the wire should come into a family fund or come into him for himself, right? What Miles said in that call was he understood of the transaction details, right? About the 18 million, about the 14 million, where that money sits and what would be the next steps to create a middle bank and then having the money transfer to the proper bank. What Miles said to the group was it was a big responsibility that we cannot lose a single penny because we value investors, money coming in, and everything needs to be done basically properly, right? So that was the only instruction that Miles gave to the group, not as a financial person, not as a wire beneficiary, right? And not as someone who gave the bank fraud or proper or false information, right? So I think that would give the jury a proper position of where Miles stands in that call. And so Kevin, tell us a little bit of what foundation that you think the government was trying to lay with this specific witness, because obviously with Mulan the profile is very clear, a former member, that seemed to be in a top management position, handled a lot of internal and external financial issues. The government tried to paint her as a conspirator, and for this person I think it would almost be the same, right? A finance guy who handled lots of accounts. Sounds, with big numbers, 18 millions or so, right? Entities, owners, these are big titles for ordinary people to understand where this person stands. So because I understand, to my understanding, I think that the government would want to spend more time direct questioning this person since you have that laundry list, right? And so what objectives that you think that the government was trying to make with this specific witness?
I mean, the core of this indictment is that all the entities in the indictment, the 4, they're frauds, right? They're fraud schemes, financially. And so this witness is a finance guy, right? He knows where the money is, right? He knows where the money went, where it came from, since he basically managed the relationships between the banks and the wire transfers and all that. And so I just think the prosecution is going to spend maybe just as much time on Yali as much as this one. And so like you mentioned, we have a laundry list. There's a bunch of recordings. I'm not sure if we'll be able to hear all of it, maybe just bits and pieces. But it'd definitely be really interesting to hear what went on in those private meetings, since we've never heard any of those. It's not public information. And so it also paint a clearer picture of what was actually happening behind the scenes. And I think that some of the audio evidences does help Miles as well. Like you mentioned, basically him telling, take care of the money, it's very important. We have a great responsibility on our shoulders. And so I'm sure there'll be, stuff like that in the recordings to come. And so I think that's basically it.
What were jurors, reactions when they hear the recording? Because obviously, I think this was the very first recording that they heard from the government since day one.
I was sitting a bit further from the jurors, but then they were definitely paying a lot of attention. And then because some part of the recordings are in Chinese Mandarin, so they were reading a translation as well as a transcript at the same time. So I think that it's going to take some time for them to figure out each person's position in the recording and then what was actually going on,
Yeah, I think, from the very beginning to now, the government had actually presented a variety of evidences that they present to the court and to the jurors. Over the last 2 weeks, we've seen music videos of Miles, right? 3 different music videos. And then there were emails, there were, agreements, there were, agreements where signature is available and where signature is not available. And there were also bank records, wire proofs, and now it comes to phone recordings and other list of pictures as well. So we've heard from last week that the government might have 16 witnesses in total, and so it comes to the 14th witness already. So we were not sure if the government would change its mind at any time. But if we go with the 16th witness number, then that means the government would probably be able to complete all of its questioning with the government's witness by this week. So we will see. And so Feather, Kevin, did the judge or did the prosecution team mention anything about any other upcoming witnesses in today? Because sometimes they would mention that the next witness will come from which city, even a foreign country. Did the prosecution team mention anything about upcoming witnesses?
Not that I know of. Like there's no further information being brought up in the court about the next witnesses.
And it might have because they would probably spend more time on direct questioning the 14th witness as well. So we have very limited time for this program. It's almost 4 p.m. So Feather, Max, thank you so much for coming to the studio. I want to say one more. Kevin was just graduated. He flew back to Canada for our graduation ceremony, and he flew back to join the cause and fight with us together. So everybody, congratulations on Kevin's graduation, and he's now becoming an official adult. and so we will be back tomorrow from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So please follow us on Miles' trial at NFSC Speaks. We will bring you live and recent updates about Mr. Guo's case. Remember, this man has never pleaded guilty to the charges that the government put on him. He is innocent, and it is the government's burden to prove all of the allegations that they put against Miles. We will fight together, and we will see you tomorrow at 3 p.m. with Miles' trial. Thank you, everybody. We will see you tomorrow.